Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for the 6th Missouri River Basin Water Management Conference Call of 2012. I am Thomas O'Hara, and I will be the moderator for today's call. These calls are recorded in their entirety. Your participation acknowledges your consent to be recorded. The agenda for today's call will be as follows. Dr. Dennis Toddy, the South Dakota State climatologist, will talk about the short and long-range precipitation and temperature outlooks from the NOAA Climate Prediction Center. Doug Cluck, NOAA Central Region Climate Service Director out of Kansas City, will not provide an update, but is also on the line to answer questions related to weather conditions in the basin. Kevin Lau, Senior Hydrologist, National Weather Service, Missouri Basin River Forecast Center, will provide update on spring flood potential across the Missouri Basin. Kevin Grody, Missouri River Forecasting Team Lead, will provide an update on the Corps' reservoir release schedule. Levee repair status updates will be provided by Brett Budd, Chief of Omaha District Systems Restoration Team, and we will also receive an update on repairs from Judd Knieven, Kansas City District Emergency Operations Center. We will then take questions by state. As a reminder, we use a forced mute function during this call. To unmute your line during this call, enter *6. This function does not work on all phones, so please be aware that if this mute function does not work on your phone, all others on the call will be able to hear your conversations. I would now like to do a quick roll call for today's speakers. Dr. Toddy, are you on the line, sir? *6, please, to come off mute.
I'm here.
Thank you, sir. Doug Cluck, are you on?
Doug may be on in just a minute. I just provided him the phone connection.
Okay, thank you. Kevin Lau, are you on, sir? Kevin Lau, are you there, sir?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Judd Knieven and Colonel Hoffman in Kansas City, are you there, sir?
This is Judd and Robin. Welcome.
Thank you. And Colonel Rook, the Omaha District Commander, is going to try and participate. He's in travel status on BlackBerry, so his connection may be limited. Also, reminders. A link to our press kit, which includes bios, Missouri River Basin information, and historical data, can be found in your media advisory. You can also access it from our website. We now also offer this conference call in podcast form in iTunes. Follow the link from your media advisory or go to iTunes and run a search for Missouri River Basin Water Management to subscribe to the podcast. Dr. Dennis Toddy, South Dakota State climatologist, will now discuss short and long-range precipitation and temperature outlooks. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
I'm sorry?
I hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon. A very nice day in South Dakota, hopefully where you are. Kind of a wide range of conditions to discuss, so we're going to hit on those right now. Situation currently is that, as talked last time, most of the snowpack on the plains is gone, and because of the very warm conditions we have seen recently, there's been no recurrence of snow across the plains, as can happen often during this time of year. In the near-term outlooks, there's potential for precipitation, but it looks like a very low likelihood right now of additional snowpack in the plains, and most of the frost has gone out of the plains also, so we have permeable soil throughout all the Missouri River Basin. A recent storm has added a little bit to the mountain snowpack, has increased a little bit over the last couple weeks or so, but it still is running near average to slightly above average, depending on the basins you're looking at. And as I mentioned, there were very warm, dry conditions are continuing, which is adding to the complexity of the issue here. The very warm, dry conditions are helping dry out conditions across the plains, which has led to some fire danger. It's also reduced some of the flows available to add to the river system. Likely these warm conditions are going to continue in the short term and very potentially into the month of April because of there's a large ridge of high pressure over the southeast that is pushing warmer air into our area, combined with the dry soils and lack of snow cover. These warm conditions are very likely to continue. Beyond the short term, there are no specific indications on precipitation. There are conflicting signals versus on wet versus dry, so the outlooks all lean toward equal chances. In the upper basin, in the short term, it looks like there is a good likelihood of some additional storms over the next week to 2 week period, which will add to accumulation into the mountain areas. That's not unexpected because accumulation does continue in the snow in the Rockies for another few weeks, so that is not unexpected at this point. For those of you who might be looking in the press pack, moving on to the next slide, just indicating how warm the conditions are. Very warm conditions, 6, 8, more than 10 degrees above average over the last 30 days, adding to the complexity of the issues. From a precipitation standpoint, we've had some heavier precipitation in the southeast part of the basin, below the reservoir, before the reservoir system, and then decent precipitation in the far upper part of the basin. The plains in western North Dakota, much of western South Dakota, most of North Dakota have been fairly dry over this period of time. The next slide would indicate a map from NRCS indicating the snow courses and comparison versus last year. We have had an increase so that most of the basins are near average to a little bit above average, but this is, again, quite a bit less than where we saw it this time last year in the way of snowfall. Moving on to the outlooks for the next 8 to 14 days, which would be on the next slide. Most of the middle part of the country has a very high likelihood of staying warmer than average. Again, based on probabilities here, going to stay warm. The middle part of the country has increased chance of precipitation, and that far upper part of the basin has an increased chance of above average precipitation. But parts of Montana down into the central plains has a better chance of staying on the dry side. Moving on to what we will see in April, again indicated a good likelihood of warmer than average conditions staying throughout the country, throughout the month of April, maybe a little below average temperatures in the very far upper part of the basin. As I mentioned on precipitation, beyond the short period of time, equal chances of below or above average precipitation. Not really good indications going into the longer term. And then as we look out in the next 3-month period, April, May, June, July, the chances for temperatures go to equal chances. We don't have good indications one way or the other. But the western part of the basin during that time period may fall into or has an increased chance of drier conditions. The Climate Prediction Center, several of the tools are indicating increased chance of drier conditions in the western plains to the Great Basin, and moving to the far western part of the basin as we move into summer. One last slide I want to point out to people the recent warm conditions and continuing dry conditions from last fall. There are areas of the Missouri Basin that are showing up on the drought monitor from D0, abnormally dry, to moderate droughts and even a little bit of severe drought in the far eastern part of the basin. But if you look on the U.S. drought outlook, this is on the last slide for those of you who may be looking, it shows a green area over these showing improvement over the next, throughout until the end of June is the data time on this. I want to caution people that this may be misleading, is that there is likely some improvement because spring is typically our wetter time of year where precipitation exceeds evaporation, but we do not expect to resolve all dryness issues throughout the eastern part of the basin. And then there are no indications on the upper part of the basin towards creation of drought. So that concludes my part of this.
Dennis, thank you. Wait for a second. I'm going to put everybody back on forced mute. We were getting an echo, so that's why I did that. Okay, next will be Kevin Lau, Senior Hydrologist, National Weather Service, Missouri Basin River Forecast Center, who will provide an update on the spring flood potential across the Missouri Basin. Kevin, you'll have to hit *6 to come off mute.
Can you hear me, sir?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. As we stated in the 15 March National Weather Service hydrologic assessment, the National Weather Service continues to project a normal risk of flooding for most areas within the Missouri Basin for this spring. The exception exists in the Dakotas, where we expect a lower than normal risk for flooding. Again, normal risk implies that for those locations which typically experience flooding year to year, we again expect a likelihood of flooding this spring. For those locations which do not normally flood, we do not project that flooding is likely this spring. We do expect a greater than 50% chance for spring flooding for many of the smaller tributaries in the lower part of the basin, and this has been borne out over the past few days due to the persistent heavy rainfall that has occurred over eastern Kansas and western Missouri. About 15 tributaries experienced at least minor flooding this past week, with 6 streams cresting in the moderate flood category. This flooding is typical for these streams and is expected to continue off and on throughout the duration of the spring. At the moment, the Missouri River is currently slightly above flood stage at Gasconade, Missouri, and nearly so at Herman. The river is expected to crest slightly below flood stage at both Washington and St. Charles over the next couple of days. Again, we do not expect significant flooding due to mountain snowmelt this spring. And this concludes the National Weather Service flood potential brief, sir.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin Grody, Missouri River Forecasting Team Lead, will now provide an update of current basin conditions and the Corps' reservoir release schedule.
Thank you to everyone for joining us on this call today. We appreciate your participation and your help keeping the public informed as we have now moved into the peak runoff season that extends from March through July. Current status of the system. The total volume of water stored in the main stem reservoir system is currently 56.9 million acre-feet, which is 1.1 million acre-feet above, I'm going to start over again. 56.9 million acre-feet, 0.1 million acre-feet above the base of the annual flood control and multiple use zone. System storage fell as low as 56.1 million acre-feet in late July, which would have been 0.7 million acre-feet below the base of the annual flood control and multiple use zone. As is expected during March, runoff has increased, and we are beginning to store some water in the 16.3 million acre-foot annual flood control multiple use zone. Earlier this week, we increased releases from Gavins Point Dam in order to provide flow support for navigation. Gavins releases were increased from 22,000 CFS to 27,000 CFS over a 4-day period. We will adjust those releases as basin conditions dictate. Last time this year, system storage was 3.8 million acre-feet higher than what it is today. It was at 60.7 million acre-feet. And Gavins Point releases were 6,000 CFS lower than what they are today. They were at 21,000 CFS. Regarding snowpack, currently there is no plain snowpack in the Missouri Basin. Plain snowpack data is provided by the National Weather Service's National Operational Hydrologic Remote Sensing Center. Even with little or no plain snowpack this year, we still have runoff in March and April, since runoff in March and April is from a combination of plain snowmelt and rainfall. To date, runoff above Gavins Point Dam during March has been about 1.5 million acre-feet, which is slightly below our March 1 forecast for runoff during March. Mountain snowpack data is collected and disseminated by the Natural Resources Conservation Service, or the NRCS. The latest data available on their website indicates that mountain snowpack is now about normal throughout most of the Missouri River Basin. However, the range in individual subbasins can vary from 94% all the way up to 118%. Overall, mountain snowpack in the reach above Fort Peck is about 102% of normal and 100% of normal in the reach between Fort Peck and Garrison Dam, which includes the Yellowstone River Basin. Typically, about 87% of the peak mountain snowpack accumulation has occurred by mid-March, and it peaks around April 15. This time last year, mountain snowpack was 113% above Fort Peck and 121% in the reach between Fort Peck and Garrison. So in summary, based on what we're seeing today, runoff so far in 2012 has been tracking fairly closely with our March 1 runoff forecast, which is indicating a near normal runoff year. However, I caution that conditions can still change dramatically as they did last spring. We are only 3 weeks into a 5-month runoff season. The risk of snowmelt-driven flooding may be low this year, but there is still the potential for rainfall-induced flooding as was seen this time last year, as was seen this week in the lower basin. A case in point, in northwest Missouri has experienced flooding in 4 of the last 5 years, in 2007, 2008, 2010, and 2011. And in only one of those years, only last year in 2011, was the flooding attributable to high runoff in the upper basin and high releases from the main stem reservoir system. During those other 3 years, flooding was a result of rainfall events below the reservoir system. Therefore, it is imperative that we not become complacent. And by we, I mean the collective we, all of us. Flood risk management is a group effort and a shared responsibility. We have a role in managing and communicating that risk to ensure the basin is ready for whatever Mother Nature has in store for us. Finally, one last item. Water management is in the process of planning a series of 7 public meetings which will be conducted throughout the basin during the week of April 16th through the 20th. The purpose of the meetings is to update stakeholders on current hydrologic conditions and the planned operation of the reservoir system through 2012. Detailed information including times and locations will be announced as soon as arrangements have been finalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Brett Budd, Chief of the Omaha District Systems Restoration Team, will now provide a levee repair status update.
Thank you, Tom, and good afternoon, everyone. Currently, the Omaha District has 18 levee rehabilitation projects that are authorized and funded under Public Law 8499. The most critical and time-sensitive of those repairs have been completed, and we are finishing our current construction contracts. Geotechnical investigations are underway along the sections of the levees that experienced seepage problems during the flood. These investigations and tests are used to measure the existing soil conditions, including under-seepage. With this information, we will be able to determine the final repairs required for the levees. Due to the volume of data, the NRCS is currently assisting the Omaha District in its seepage analysis. Personnel from the Corps' Mobile District will also be arriving next week to provide assistance. Our goal is to complete the investigation, designs, and all construction of levee repairs by the end of the calendar year. To date, 11 of the 18 levee systems have awards in ongoing construction. We anticipate awarding construction contracts on the majority of the remaining systems in the next few months. Thus far, the Omaha District has had 33 contract actions for a total of $79.7 million for levee repairs. In parallel with our effort of performing levee repairs, we've also begun engineering assessment studies and designs at all 6 main stem dams. Included in this effort are operating projects associated with the main stems, such as the Williston Levee in Williston, North Dakota. Currently, there are $8.9 million in awarded contracts at the dams and operating projects. The current estimate for all main stem dams and related flood control structure repairs is over $200 million. The goal is to have the majority of the dam repairs under contract by the end of the fiscal year. Going state by state, in Iowa, levee L624, 627 at Council Bluffs. All critical repairs of the 28th Street Veterans Memorial Bridge pump stations were substantially complete with final equipment installation and finishing work ongoing. This contract was modified to include drainage structure and other repairs at 7 additional locations. 6 of those projects are substantially complete with only final site restoration, seating, and or final equipment installation remaining. Geotechnical testing has been completed and data has been turned over to the Omaha District this week. Levee L611, 614 south of Council Bluffs. 2 construction contracts were awarded thus far in the system. The first to construct 5 seepage berms and restore a scour area was substantially completed on March 5th. The second contract for installation of relief wells is ongoing with construction at 60% complete and on schedule to reach completion by June 1st. Geotechnical investigations are currently underway on that levee system. Levee L575 near Hamburg. The critical repairs at all 3 breaches, the upper near Percival, Iowa, the middle near Hamburg, and the lower near the Nishnabotna River, are complete. On March 13th, the Omaha District awarded a modification for inline reconstruction of roughly 1 mile levee section to repair a slope failure north of the lower breach. On March 15th, the district awarded a modification to construct additional seepage berms and other levee repairs at non-breach locations. 5 additional seepage berms are under construction, where they're required to fill in gaps between existing seepage berms. There are also 3 areas where eroded levee slopes will be restored, topsoil placed, and seeding planted. Geotechnical investigations are beginning this week. In Missouri, levee L550 near Rockport, Missouri. The contractor is substantially complete at both breach locations. The final erosion control and levee surfacing is ongoing at the lower breach and includes the installation of toe drains and stability berms where needed. Work is now substantially shifted to seepage berms, scoured areas, and placement of riprap at the breach locations. The Course-Vented District performed geotechnical testing last weekend, and additional testing will begin this week. Levee L536 south of Rockport, Missouri. Construction of a setback levee at this critical repair site is substantially complete. Additional armoring of the levee with riprap began on February 28th and is ongoing. In Nebraska, levee R624-627, which is the Omaha Flood Protection Project. Critical repairs have been completed at this site to include Grace Street outlet repair, Riverside levee restoration, Metallusa sewer division repair, Kinder Morgan drainage structure repair, Riverview pump station repair, Douglas Street pump station repair, levee side slope turf restoration, and airport approach light foundation restoration. Ongoing work includes installation of new flap gates and discharge pipes at the Kinder Morgan Riverview pump station. Once rights of entries are received through the City of Omaha from the Burlington Northern Railroad, we'll begin work on the Jones Street pumping station and pressure grouting of the Omaha flood wall. Geotechnical investigation of the project is nearing completion with the Corps Baltimore District drill crew completing 19 of 24 soil borings. This information will be used to further define additional repair needs. Levee R613 south of Bellevue. On February 14th, the Omaha District awarded a purchase order for seeding on the Missouri River levee R613. Work includes seeding the Papillion Creek right bank, the Missouri River right bank, and the Platte River left bank. This project will be substantially complete today. Follow-on repairs will include work on 2 drainage structures that will be ready for advertising next week. Levee R616, also south of Bellevue. Seeding and flap gate cleanout are scheduled for completion today. Geotechnical testing has begun on both R613 and 616 and have been completed this week. Levee R573 south of Nebraska City. On February 14th, the Omaha District awarded a task order for repairs to scour holes, construction of seepage berms, slope repairs, and seeding. Construction activities are ongoing. The contractor is stripping and stockpiling material for seepage berms and slope repairs. Dredging began on Wednesday to fill the Riverside scour hole. All geotechnical testing is complete, and survey was completed by crews from the Kansas City District. Levee R562 northeast of Peru. Flood damage includes sand boils, toe erosion due to wave action, and scouring at 3 locations along the levee crest, and Riverside turf being damaged and loss of topsoil. A geotechnical investigation is underway with the Course-Vented District drill crew mobilizing earlier this week. That investigation is anticipated to be completed next week with the resulting information to be used to further define additional repairs. Additional information and updates are available on the Omaha District webpage and the Flood 2011 repairs link. Thank you, and back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Brett. Judd Knieven, Chief of Kansas City District Emergency Operations Center, will now provide an update on the status of levee repairs in the Kansas City District.
Hey, Tom, Robin Walkum's going to lead this one.
Roger that.
57 requests for assistance have been received by the Kansas City District for these repairs. 53 levee rehab projects have been identified to complete. Our rough order of magnitude at this point is still $42 million to complete all repairs to these levee rehabilitation projects. 7 contracts have been awarded for approximately $7.35 million. We do have solicitation announcements posted for several other projects on the street right now. 4 projects have been denied due to minimal damages on those properties. Within Kansas, at Clyde, Kansas, bids have been received on March 13th. The contract award is pending. For River Mile 471-460R, a construction contract awarded on 9 February to Cajun Contractors, subcontracting with TL Enterprises, is in progress. Rock removal at the NRCS wetland scour is completed and currently 15% filled with soil. Topsoil placement on the underseepage berm is in progress. Construction completion is scheduled for 21 June of 2012. At Kansas Department of Corrections, proposals were received on March 21st. Contract award is pending. Walcott Drainage District, Sections 1, 2, and 3, solicitation has been posted to Fed BizOps with bids due on 30 March. In Missouri, Union Township, the project was awarded 16 February to Idecker Incorporated of St. Joseph, Missouri, subcontracting to Hill Brothers Construction. 2 of the upstreammost breaches had the sand core placed for levee setbacks, and other impervious fill placement on top of these levees is in progress. Construction completion is estimated at 21 June with seeding completed 1 October of 2012. Cannons Drainage District and Kimsey-Holly, this project was awarded 22 March to ESI of Kansas City, Missouri for the repair of breaches and erosion repairs. Pre-construction meetings were held today. Notice to proceed will be issued on Monday, and mobilization will occur on Monday, March 26th. Construction completion is estimated in July of 2012, with seeding completed 1 October 2012. Polk County number 9. This project solicitation was posted on Fed BizOps. Bids are due 27 March. L455. This contract was awarded in conjunction with the R471-460 contract. Scour holes on L455 are filled to grade, and over 200 feet of the underseepage berm have been placed. Rushville Sugar Lake. The contract was awarded on 30 January to ESI of Kansas City. The level of protection has been achieved on 18 March. Seeding and mulching remain to be completed. Construction completion is still scheduled for 31 May of 2012. Bean Lake. A construction contract was awarded on 10 February to TJC Engineering of Louisville, Kentucky, subcontracting to Pro Specialties. 4 of the 7 breaches have been closed. Construction completion is scheduled for 28 June of 2012. L408 and L400, this project solicitation was posted on Fed BizOps. Proposals were received 16 March, and contract award is pending. Walkendall, a construction contract was awarded to Idecker Incorporated of St. Joseph, Missouri on Monday, 23 January. The level of protection was achieved on this site on 15 March, with some final grading and seeding remaining to be completed. Construction completion is scheduled for 1 May of 2012. For continuous updates, please refer to our website at www.nwk.usace.army.mil. Click on the Levee Rehabilitation tab in the center of the site. That completes our update from the Kansas City District.
Thank you, Robin. As a reminder, these calls are recorded and can be retrieved in their entirety from the Corps' website or from iTunes by no later than close of business today. Also, for any questions related to FEMA, please contact them using the following phone numbers. Flood insurance questions, 1-800-427-4661. All other questions for Region 7, 816-283-7095, and Region 8, 303-235-4908. We will now field questions by state for the Corps, Dr. Cluck, Mr. Cluck, Dr. Toddy, and Mr. Lau. We will begin with Montana. Any Montana congressional delegation members, tribes, state officials, local government, or press? All right, for Wyoming, any Wyoming congressional delegation members, tribes, state officials, local government, or press? Moving on to North Dakota. Once again, remind you folks, *6 to come off mute. North Dakota, any congressional delegation members, tribes, state officials, local government, or press? Moving to South Dakota, any South Dakota congressional delegation members, tribes, state officials, local government, or press?
Say, this is Tony Mangan at KCCR Radio. Just a couple questions about the Wahi Reservoir. At this point, you say that there is no flooding, and at this point everything's good. Is there a point in all of this where we're not getting precipitation, where you might start to be concerned about drought?
This is Kevin Grody. We are monitoring basin conditions at all times, Tony. At this point, we are not going to modify our releases for drought conditions. But it is something that is in our master manual. Should storage get down to a point that we go into water conservation, that we do that.
Is there? Are we close to that point, or are we okay at this point? Or, I mean, how bad would it have to get? I guess.
Well, much worse than it is now. We are forecasting normal runoff for 2012.
And then the other quick thing about the Wahi, I'm assuming everything's going pretty good as far as repair work, that type of thing?
This is Greg Melama, Tony. Yeah, everything at Oahe right now is going on schedule. We're hitting hard on our designs and getting contracts awarded. Was there anything specific you were curious about?
I know the Fromboy Island Causeway project is to be bid or the bids are to be open today, I believe.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, and then otherwise, it's just you're just going through the process, and I'm assuming the good weather has helped you.
Well, absolutely. It's helped with our field investigations and inspections, and it hasn't been a detriment at all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions from South Dakota? All right, moving on to Nebraska. Any Nebraska congressional delegation members, tribes, state officials, local government, or press?
Hi, this is Katie Schubert from Omaha Public Radio. How are things looking in the Omaha Council Bluffs area as we are going into spring, considering we've had such warm weather so far?
With respect to
with respect to river conditions, you talked about the releases from Gavin's Point Dam.
Right. Those are well within the channel. Very normal for this type of year.
Okay, so it's normal for this type of year then?
Yes.
Okay. And, Kevin, how do you spell your last name?
Grode, G-R-O-D-E.
G-R-O-D-E. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from Nebraska? Moving on to Iowa. Any Iowa congressional delegation members, state officials, local government, or press? Moving to Missouri. Any Missouri congressional delegation members, state officials, local government, or press? Lastly, Kansas. Any Kansas congressional delegation members, tribes, state officials, local government, or press? Any national media? And one last call for any questions from anybody that hasn't had a chance to ask their question yet. Okay, hearing none, our next call is scheduled for Friday, April 6th at 1 p.m. Central. An updated media advisory will be distributed as a reminder in advance of each call. Thank you for participating on today's call. We are now adjourned.